Want to welcome to the program right now with a nanny state update. Our friend Julie Gunlock is with us on the program. Julie, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am excellent. All right, so this is the next best thing to get a chance to hang out in person in Farmville. Glad you could join us in studio. And I don't know if you saw the news earlier today, CBS News out of New York reporting that Michael Bloomberg thinking about running for president in 2020.
Of course he is. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, because he can't control himself. He's got to control people. I think since he's left office, left the mayor's office in New York, he's sort of been, controlling people's, purchase of guns or trying to ban them, and, meddling in people's decisions on food. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all. His ego is intact. It's a big one. So not surprised that he needs a little attention.
And here's the thing. I said on Twitter earlier, this is at least the third presidential election cycle that I've seen the headlines of, is Bloomberg going to run?
Right,
Is he going to run? Is he going to run as a Republican or a Democrat? Or maybe he's going to run as an independent?
Yeah.
No labels. Maybe he's got to do that. Look, this is my theory, okay? I have no actual knowledge of this, but my theory is that someone from the Bloomberg camp floats this out. Boss man says, "Hey, why don't you go see if there's any interest in me running for president? Let's float this trial balloon out there."
Right.
And it gets floated and it pops very close to the ground, and then they go back and they say, "Hey, we just don't really see any way you're going to be president, Michael Bloomberg. Sorry about that." I suspect that Michael Bloomberg is not going to run for president in 2020. I do suspect that he's going to hand out. By 2020, my prediction is that he will spend more than $100 million on anti-gun candidates that year.
Yep, and anti-vaping and
anti-soda,
anti-sugar, sort of more food nanny, menu labeling, all that anti-salt campaigns. So yeah, he loves to meddle. Look, I do think Bloomberg has a savior complex. He thinks he is a savior. He wants to protect people. I went this past weekend. I spoke at the World Salt Summit, and these are manufacturers, both for road salt and in manufacturing, but also in food, processed food. And spoke about, one of the things I spoke about was Mayor Bloomberg, who, while doing a PR campaign in New York City using public funds to criticize processed food being too salty and salt in general being unhealthy, which it's not. New York Magazine did an expose on him and said that he had a tortured relationship with salt. He salted pepperoni pizza, saltine crackers, his popcorn. He liked it so salty that it burnt people's lips. So we know that Bloomberg has this sort of bizarre, he doesn't really carry out his own advice. He doesn't really behave in that way, but he loves to sort of boss people around and meddle with people. And I think, look, being president, that's a ticket to do that. He would have a lot of power. So yeah, I'm sure I think you're right. I think ultimately, but I think his time has passed. But I think we may see more of these sort of rumors and test balloons.
I think you're right. When Bloomberg left office as mayor of New York, by the way, the website Gizmodo, which is a left-leaning tech website, they had a story, though, the complete list of everything banned by Michael Bloomberg as mayor. Mayor.
Right.
And it's a long list, right? So smoking in commercial establishments like bars and restaurants, smoking in public places, cigarette sales to those under the age of 21, sales of flavored tobacco products, smoking e-cigarettes in public spaces, cigarette in-store displays, cars in Times Square, cars from driving in bike lanes, cars causing congestion below 60th Street in Manhattan, speeding on residential slow zones, quote, illegal guns, or let's just say guns. Sodium levels in processed foods, trans fats in restaurants, loud headphones. Do you remember loud headphones being banned? Styrofoam packaging and single-service food items, sodas larger than 16 ounces.
Right.
We're not even halfway through the list yet, Julie.
Unbelievable.
Honestly, we're not even halfway through the list.
And there was also the requirements, like requiring restaurants to post menu information, when every study on that showed that it doesn't really help people make better decisions. In fact, they polled these people. And first of all, the people would lie, but the researchers asked for their receipts and so found that actually they were not ordering the healthiest thing on the menu, even though they said to the researchers, researchers, I ordered a salad, when really they ordered like a Whopper and fries. But what was interesting was that it showed if you put menu labels up, right? So you put a salad up there, and these fast food salads, sometimes they have like 800 calories. And then so you're like, well, might as well get the burger, because why would you get a salad if a burger is the same calories? And yet there's a lot more nutrients in a salad. And so they've actually found that people only focus on the calories, not really sort of the micronutrients involved in the food. And so it actually has it sets a bad example, or it has sort of a backlash or a bad result as a result of these menu labels. So they're not good. He doesn't care about research, as we know. He doesn't care about data. Yeah, I mean, that list can go on and on, I'm sure.
Yes, it does. If you have a couple of hours, it's worth a read. And again, I mean, it's everything from, banning commercial music over 45 decibels, chain restaurant menus without calorie counts, as you said, non-hurricane-proof buildings in coastal areas, black roofs, less than a 2-to-1 ratio of female and male restrooms in new public buildings. Again, there's no aspect of your life that Bloomberg and his nannying allies would leave untouched.
And and people need to realize if he runs, this will happen. He will, there will be federal mandates. There will be federal regulations. This will happen not just in New York City. It's so funny. I watched the old reruns of Sex and the City, right? And boy, New York has changed from the beginning of that series, which, gosh, I think it's 20 years old now, which makes me feel so old. But, and I'm not condoning smoking in a bar, but, it was just weird when I saw Sarah Jessica Parker sitting at a bar smoking, at the bar, and the music was loud and all this other stuff, so New York's changed a lot. And if you want that nationwide, vote for Bloomberg.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I don't see it. I think this will be the trial balloon. It'll get popped. He'll end up spending, again, millions of dollars, because he says he's going to spend $80 million this year.
Well, it's also clear that so the American public doesn't really want this sort of squishy middle, in the middle kind of, we're not sure if he's a Republican or a Democrat. Obviously, look at the popularity of Bernie, right? He's not squishy. He's pretty socialist, he's pretty left to center. And then Trump, who's obviously, his administration, the policies we're seeing are very conservative. Just look at the Heritage Foundation, how excited they are, and the list of accomplishments that they've praised the Trump administration for. And that's the Heritage Foundation, very right of center organization. So I don't, and look, Trump is very popular with the American public. So I don't think people are looking for squishy sort of, nonpartisan types. They're looking for partisan. They're looking for really two sides of the aisle, which is, I think, part of the reason we're in this sort of the situation right now, and why we're seeing people like sitting congressmen call for violence against Republicans and against Trump administration officials, and nobody seems to mind that she's saying that. That's talking about Maxine Waters. So we're just in a strange space, and I don't think Bloomberg really fits into that political reality.
I suspect that you are correct. Now, speaking of weird political spaces, we actually had a story out of Arlington, Virginia, earlier this hour, where at a condo in Arlington, there were rumors and allegations that one of the condo residents was showing up at the condo meeting, and they had a gun with them, as they're legally and lawfully allowed to do. So the condo board is now moving the meetings of the condo board from the condo itself to a high school, to a gun-free zone, so that this resident who may or may not be carrying a firearm for sure can't legally carry one there. I'm just going to ask you. Again, you're there in Alexandria.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Life is no different in Farmville than it was a month ago. People are still getting along with one another. We're not, fisticuffs in the street. We have a protest of the ICE facility in Farmville scheduled for this Saturday. I'm guessing there'll be about 6 people that'll show up there. Right. But life is pretty much normal here. But I'm really wondering about Alexandria. You go back to earlier this year in the school walkouts in support of gun control.
It's a highly.
It's like to live in this.
It's awful.
Deep blue city right now.
It's awful. It's no fun. I mean, I text you and Cameron and things that I hear and things that I deal with and neighbors and just last night actually when Maxine Waters came out with her completely lunatic, like dangerous statement about pushing back and cornering Republicans and Trump administration officials, which I find very frightening. What happened to Kristen Nielsen is so scary. What happened to Sarah Sanders and the fact that the Red Hen folks then followed them across the street and sort of heckled them. I mean, I find this very scary. This is the kind of stuff that makes me very nervous. But what everybody's saying, well, it's because Trump's got everyone so angry. But I said this on Twitter in 2012 when Romney was running against Obama. My husband and I put a Romney sign in our yard in Alexandria proper, the city of Alexandria. I was caught, and I live on a busy street. Now this is Romney, okay? We had a Romney sign, not a Trump sign. We had a Romney sign. I live in a very deep blue city. Men would slow down, and I would be in my driveway with my children, and they would call me the C word. They would call me a pig. They would call me a racist. They would call me a B word. I mean, I can't even, my kids were so shocked, and it really rattled me. It took me a long time to get over that. It happened every day, multiple times a day, every single day. Our sign was vandalized. People were so angry. And so my point in this is just remembering that what happened in 2002. I don't think this is some sort of the left has suddenly become angry because of Trump. They've been angry and scary angry for a long, long time. And I notice it because I am the minority in my community. Yesterday, I asked the newly elected mayor of Alexandria, don't forget, this is the city where Steve Scalise was almost murdered, okay? Where a shooter did exactly what Maxine Waters said to do. He pushed back in the ultimate way, right? So I asked the new mayor of Alexandria if he would denounce what she had said and reiterate, because of course after Trump was elected they put out all these statements saying that we believe in inclusion and we believe in taking care of Alexandria citizens. So I said, hey, are you going to denounce this? This is the city where Steve Scalise was almost killed, where we saw that kind of political violence. Are you going to denounce this? And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. This is the very city where we saw that attempted mass assassination of Republicans, and he wouldn't issue a statement. So it is hard to live in this city as a Republican. It is hard to live in a city where people don't seem that concerned about what happened in this city, a year ago. And then when you see renewed calls for political violence, there isn't this sort of like, hey, we've been through that. We denounce this. Republicans are welcome in our city. No, that doesn't happen. So it's very disappointing. It's hard to sometimes live here. I have a lot of great neighbors. I don't want to paint with a too broad a brush, but it's tough.
You got a lot of great neighbors. You got a couple of crappy ones too. It's all right. You can say it. You don't
I
have
do.
to name them.
Can I?
No,
I'm just kidding.
Shame. I mean, I suppose if you want
No,
to.
I won't.
But going back to what you said about putting up the Romney sign, because now.
Oh my God!
Romney
the New York Times loves Romney.
Yes,
loves Romney.
Exactly. Just a few short years.
Oh, if we just had Romney, everything would be great. Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? When a Republican is no longer running for president, when they're now elder statesmen, or when they're saying things about other Republicans, we like him. That's the type of Republican we like.
Yeah.
But back then, you're right. He was a Nazi.
Oh, he was a binder full of women.
You were a bigot.
Binder full of women. Strapped his dog to the top of. He hated animals. He hated babies. He hated women. He was horrible. My God, women would probably be in camps by now if Romney. I mean, this is the kind of rhetoric we see. And now Romney is, and I, at the time, I was, as someone who sort of follows politics, I thought, gosh, Romney doesn't seem that dangerous to me, right? But this was the rhetoric on the left, and so I put a Romney sign in my yard, and suddenly I'm a Nazi, right? And so what frustrates me is this idea that you're seeing this, this defense of Maxine Waters and defense of this kind of thing. Like in downtown DC, Stephen Miller, his name is on wanted signs. I mean, this is sick. This is scary. I mean, what do you do if you find Stephen Miller standing on the street? I mean, do you hit him? Do you throw a rock at him? Do you harm him? I mean, it's just this idea that it's okay to suggest that it's okay to harm Trump administration or Republicans, especially for me in the city where a Republican was actually harmed. And so I think this rhetoric feeds that, and it's troublesome. It really is. And again, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're saying, well, it's just a reaction to Trump, but they did the same thing to me in front of my children, called me horrifying qualifying names about Romney. So, I think the anger on the left is real, and it's not tied to Trump. In my experience, it's been there for a long time.
Talking again with Julie Gunlock from the Independent Women's Forum. Julie, we are almost out of time. I appreciate you coming on the program. Best of luck to you. Chin up, courage, and any other words of support that we can give you.
I love coming in here.
It's a little oasis of real common sense in a big blue sea of insanity.
Yes,
there you go, Julie. Make sure you're following Julie on Twitter, by the way, at jgunlock. IWF.org is where you can find all of Julie's writings.